you been?
No, good. How are you?
It's just blocking, you know, the bells on the wall.
Is that you lost it? Yes, it is.
Okay. You're welcome to sit up here if you wish, or however.
I'll come up over with my turn.
Okay.
Thank you.
And there used to be a food. Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah. Kind of pull that to the side so no work right there. We're really glad, Blossom, that you showed us today. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very fun to operate.
Oh, yeah.
Lean on it too much.
Okay. Way better day.
I can say perfect.
Richard, would you mind if I moved it over a little?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Kidding. How far over do you want it?
Just maybe over to the table.
Oh, just a little bit.
Facing the camera. See from here. But yeah,
We have 2 more agendas if anyone wants one. Feel free. They are free. Crazy. Okay. Probably got more than 2. Even better.
yeah, I think we don't need mine because I have this. Me. Which is a board, but so we will have a public will company actual salary. Maybe I'll just invite you to the meeting.
Yeah.
That's good. Is that part of the new mandate? Is that what that was?
Hey, it's 5:30. Let's start right on the dot. I'm Richard Haratani. I'm the chairperson for the Columbia Area Advisory Council, known as CAAC. And I'll let Barbara introduce herself. And I do want to mention Kim Baker, who's former park superintendent, I believe, at Railtown, and also here on the streets with the state park, is doing a live stream attempt. So anything you say may be recorded. And she asked if you would introduce yourself before comments. That would be helpful. So.
All right. Yeah, welcome. And yeah, I'm Barbara Bailey, and we've been going on since pre-COVID as the folks here. And so we'll have elections here fairly soon, I think, at some point once we get back in the swing of things. So we had kind of a hiatus for a while. So that's it for me. And Stan Steiner is not able to attend. And for full disclosure, this agenda did not get out a full 72 hours ahead of time. It got close to it, but for technical difficulties. So this meeting will be discussion only. We won't be making any decisions. We don't have any decisions on our agenda anyway. So that's according to our bylaws. We have to announce 72 hours in advance.
Thank you. So I'll just begin with public comments. Anything that is not on the agenda may be addressed. Does anyone have anything to say not on the agenda? Oh, yes.
My name is Tristan Kaiser. Thank you, Barbara, for inviting me to give a quick little chat here. So I'm running for Sonora High School Board. I know this is a nonpartisan event. Lucky for me, it's a nonpartisan position, and I'm a lifelong no-party preference candidate. So just real quick, I'm in trustee area 2, so that includes Columbia. I'm running, well, I'm a father of 2. I got my undergrad at UC Davis in economics, my master's of science, food policy, applied nutrition from Tufts University. I'm running for 3 main reasons. Number 1, addressing the impact of pandemic-related learning loss. Our kids need to catch up and get ahead from where they were 2 years ago. There was a lot of behavioral and education loss during those Zoom years or months. Number two, I want to make sure that we're adequately funding opportunities for students, whether they're pursuing vocational trade or higher education. Columbia College offers 2 years free to every student who qualifies, and so I think we need to get more students enrolled in college, but also making sure that our vocational programs are keeping pace with 21st century technology. Number three, I just want to make sure that the Sonora High remains apolitical. School board is starting to get a little more political. I don't think that's good for the students. I want the board to remain stable, pursue objectives in a nonpartisan manner, and make sure that we're putting those students first and the teachers first and the school districts first. So thank you very much, Tristan Kaiser, again, and thank you, Barbara, for letting me speak.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Thank you, Tristan. Anything else for public comment? Okay, let's begin regular business. First item is the Pedro Y beautification project. And we're going to have a presentation shortly. I just want to give you a little history. Some of us in the room met. There's a few that may want to speak for themselves, but this is pre-COVID, obviously, and we actually did come to some agreements, and we have at least one, and I think it was voted on and approved design, but that isn't written in stone, no pun intended, but it does involve stone. So this is an ongoing process that's been sidetracked by COVID, but now we're picking it up again. And at this point, I would like the county to give the presentation. Once again, this is being recorded, so if you could introduce yourselves whenever you have the floor. Thank you.
I have a couple extras I can just pass around and circulate through the audience. There should be about 4 there. Hi, I'm Blossom Scott Heim. I'm the supervising engineer with Columbia County Public Works. We were contacted by Caltrans regarding a grant opportunity called the Clean California Grant, which is a one-time grant that Governor Newsom released earlier this year. And Caltrans applied for this grant themselves to do some gateway art in Tuolumne County along highways 108 and 49. So there are 4 overpasses in the Sonora area along 108 and the 49 Stockton Road Exchange that they're working on some overpass art for. And then another component of the grant was a gateway monument at Pedro Y. And the third component was some fencing around some Caltrans facilities in the city of Sonora to keep those safe. So we have kind of been asked by Caltrans to get some local input on the design for them, as they are the lead on this grant, not the county. And we've been working initially with the Sonora Vision Committee, which does represent both the county and the city. We do have county board members on that committee. But mainly we've been talking with them about the overpass art, which I have a handout anybody's welcome to look at afterwards of kind of where those designs are at. And then Caltrans initially did kind of a mock-up of the Gateway Monument that I did not share with your group for a reason. I think Darren saw it. And then we've kind of been collecting some ideas. I know your group had an idea, the chambers had an idea. We've had a little bit of private input here and there. And we've just kind of, and I have Zach from Old Turn. He's been the designer working on the overpass art. And he put together this packet of really just kind of some of the different ideas that you see, the location there. And we wanted to come to your group tonight to get some input on what you'd like the final design to look like, and then hopefully we can come back at the next meeting and present something that you support that we can then pass along to Caltrans. Caltrans has to have this design bid, awarded, and constructed by June of next year. So we're on a very tight timeline. The county was also successful with 3 Clean California grants. We have an extra year to deliver our projects June of 2024, but Caltrans is on a pretty short leash. And I don't know the full budget for the sign itself. I want to say the entire project's in about the $750,000 range. That's the fencing, the overpasses, and this monument. I know there's been talk in the past of landscaping and some other features here. How Caltrans wrote this grant application, it is limited just to the gateway sign or monument structure. I've talked to a few of you individually about expanding that if you wanted some landscaping down the road. One option is that the county could apply for a no-fee encroachment permit from Caltrans, because that triangle is Caltrans property, on the behalf of a local community group such as yourself. The group would have to provide landscape plans, stamped by a landscape architect, and then we could go through the process of getting that encroachment permit for no fee for the group and facilitating the installation of some landscaping or other features. So that's something we can definitely talk about down the road. But again, this grant opportunity is limited just to the monument. So if you kind of have the packet or if you want to follow along, initially we've got kind of the Golden Chain Highway, the mining cart concept. That's the Welcome to Calaveras County. We've got the concept here. I believe this is the one that came from your group.
Yes.
The second one where we've got some, I believe this is limestone.
Which incidentally has been donated already.
Here is kind of a similar design with a metal, kind of that rustic metal sign. And then I think the next one of these is the chamber. I think the chamber sent, I don't know if it's this one came from you folks in the chamber. Very similar looking.
No, that was also fun.
That was, okay, and then it's not in your packet, but here's that same design with a little miner on top. I apologize, that wasn't in the packet. We had a new printer installed this week, and I was fighting it until the last minute tonight, trying to get this stuff printed out.
No. So my understanding, if I may, this one was generated by the Gateway Committee that I spoke about many years ago. And then the chamber took this and added that feature on top.
Thank you, thank you. And then we also have this kind of an archway feature, which unfortunately isn't going to work at that location because of the traffic signal. It would impede that sight distance. So we're really trying to keep this to the triangle itself. So really knowing that we always have constraints from Caltrans with the encroachment process. It has to be a certain distance away from the edge of the lane. It has to be within a certain height and width, and that's something we can kind of hopefully we can apply those filters after we get an idea of what you folks want. But tonight, really, I'd just like to hear how you feel about these, or if you have some other concepts you'd like to see, or some changes to this. And I forgot my pen, so I'm going to grab that really quick. But I'd love to get some input from your group.
And while she gets her pen, quick poll. It's a little loud, but there is AC, and it seems warm in here to me. Is that possible, Joel, to try that? And everyone can just speak up, or if you can't hear, then we'll turn it off.
Yeah, good shot.
Well, sir, I just want to, go ahead.
And Blossom, if you want to control this whole Q&A, go ahead.
Sure. Let's just, I would love your input.
My name's Chris Jepson. I just had a question about, is there going to be water available for irrigation? Because that would kind of determine where we head with any kind of planting.
So again, the planting would have to be a future phase. There is to be water in that triangle. I don't know how we could go about metering that, or that would be a discussion we would have to have with TUD. Generally, though, I will tell you Caltrans is supporting drought-tolerant or zero-scape type landscaping, something where maybe for the first year you have irrigation and then you go to a drought tolerant type planting.
It was just that first year I was
Yeah.
concerned about.
Yeah, that's something we can certainly look into as we get closer to that landscaping phase, but I do know there's just about every utility in the county in that triangle.
Speaking of that, I wanted to ask, for the sign that have been submitted from the Gateway Committee, would there be electrical on it for the ability to have it lit at night?
That's something we can investigate. Obviously, there is electrical in that region. It would be a matter of tapping into PG&E and then figuring out who pays the bill, frankly. Is it something we could run off that signal where the county's already paying a portion of the electrical bill? Is the county willing to take that on? But there certainly is power there. So, and I'd have to look, Caltrans has some pretty stringent guidelines about lighting. It would probably be restricted to just a little bit of nighttime uplighting.
Right.
Something that wouldn't interfere with sight distance or glare and standard stuff.
And I want to confirm too, because that was a discussion I had with Vision Sonora in that committee. So as far as the recommendation from Columbia, that will be coming through the advisory commission here, right? Not to Vision Sonora.
Yes, I mean, ultimately this, we'll ask for some board input from the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors. And ultimately the decision will be Caltrans's, because this is their project. But they've made it pretty clear that they want to do what the local community wants. So.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Keene. I want to thank Blossom because this originally was scheduled for Vision Sonora. And now we're here in Columbia to talk about it, so hats off to Blossom for carrying the torch. I also offer my services. I did the last title work on that fire. And so I would love to look at these because once you put gold in that, it's only not going to so you can have more. And just as a personal comment, the mining equipment and the arch are all derivative and are not indicative of the essence of something. It's just not.
Yeah, I'm Dave Lynn. Before COVID, I was on the committee, and apparently I'm not on the committee anymore, but nobody told me. But at the time, Supervisor Rutherford said that he meant that Caltrans would deed that property to the county before we proceed with the project. Is that no longer going to happen?
That's not something that we've been discussing, no. All of this work, and especially now that Caltrans is a recipient of the grant, I think that they would prefer to move forward just with installing this themselves, and then, like I said, additional work we can do under the encroachment process.
Could that possibly happen in the future as far as that property being actually needed to the county?
I don't know I don't think so. I don't know that Caltrans wants to get rid of it because they still do some operations there. And frankly, I don't know that the county wants to take it on.
That's changed it. That was all I see.
Yeah, and I think also that was a path to how the county could put the sign up and maintain it. Since the grant is directly to Caltrans, I think that's really a lot of where things shifted. There's been a big shift in their encroachment folks. I know a lot of you probably worked with the previous person who's retired.
Well, will you be talking about the design conflict tonight, I would like to see some Native American influence.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just think, to provide some context. The committee was Dave Phillips, which is having met, we went to the bigger right. Start meeting in March of 2017. And there were probably 15 to 20 of us on that committee, of which I see half a dozen years now. So that if this CAAC decides to form another committee, I would urge that our original committee included NNA members And I would urge that there be publication and PR to get as many people to come involved. That's all.
Hi, my name is Jim Bain, I'm a local Columbia resident, and I was on this committee along with Dave Boone years and years and years ago. And I think I still have in my file that letter from TUD. It was kind of a will serve letter of the raw water that's in that area. And there was some concern about the vegetation there because that ground was pretty contaminated with tallgrass dumpings for years. So I don't know if stirring that up, if they rectify that or not, but that would have to be probably tested to see if there's anything we could plant there, but I would highly recommend we don't do that. Because the county had a bad experience, I think, it was on the Jamestown area that was supposed to be kept up and all that kind of stuff, and it had problems. So I went ahead and talked to Cal Fire, Captain Cousins, I believe the guy was, and he assured me that the fire folks could help in maintaining this parcel out here, come out once a month or once every couple of months and do some handwork to make sure that everything is kept up. So we have a spot there to get some labor, and I think that I might even get something for the prison, to help on that too. So we shouldn't have that question come up where we couldn't answer that. Use those sources. Then the mine folks, I talked to them, and they seem very congenial to bringing in, should I say, raw dirt if we need to do a filling in there. Like instead of turning up this contaminated dirt, if we could go over the top of it to bring it up to the grade that we want. They seem congenial to doing something like that. Might have to be some cost covered for transportation, but they would have the dirt available out there for us to use. That was, of course, years ago, but I think things haven't changed that way. And they also had good comments to add about the decorative rock apron that might go around this thing. Where you go around the outside of decorative rock with an apron, and that way you can keep the weeds away and keep a little area there that can be weeded to keep it looking good.
I can talk to the soil issue. There is aerially deposited lead in that area. The amounts vary by location, so it's something where some testing would have to be done. And depending on the levels of lead, the soil may have to be off-hauled and disposed of. Especially the lower level stuff is not hazardous, so it's not as much of an issue. But it's kind of odd in that area. We did quite a bit of testing before the road project, and there were some areas that were just fine, and then there were some others that was a little higher.
For this design that you propose here, you would be set back a little towards the high side of that area, wouldn't it? More?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the best scenario, I think.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes.
So folks are, okay, because of the changes there, we have, now we've got folks that really do have to slow down and actually stop and then make the right-hand turn. So I would be interested in looking at plants that are culturally significant to the Miwok people in terms of landscaping that, like the Muhlenbergia rigens, that's the deer grass, the basket grass that they use. It's a California native, obviously. It's a big bunch grass. But in terms of scale and framing of these, beautiful, iconic rocks, it seems to me that if we were able to landscape it and we had some volunteers, like in Sonora, they've got the beautification. I think Sharon, you remember that with that Waterbury years ago. The Tree League might be able to, work with the vegetation there. But the significant plants of the Miwok people, such as redbud, they're drought tolerant, but they do offer beautiful four-season type of look that would frame those rocks. So the rocks aren't just sitting there like teeth. And the poppies would be significant in the lupin because the early miners all of them exclaimed when they saw the San Joaquin, they thought it was on fire. They saw smoke and fire, but it was lupin and poppies through the whole valley. So some of those iconic things are very significant, would add some beautiful color, and I think it would reduce some of the smog that's getting created there, just because of the safety configuration and the heat sink that's more there as people are downshifting and turning and whatnot. And I think if we could contact TUD for the raw water, because that's gravity fed going through there, crosses right under there. The little thing says the O'Neill ditch up here, and that's all gravity, crosses under the Y, and then goes over and becomes the Table Mountain ditch. And that may be, I don't think it's possible to have a Pelton, but that would be fabulous in terms of eye-catching, again, an iconic feature. I don't think we have the gravity drop right there, but certainly,
I said that'd be cool. I happen to know one that's sitting in a river right now.
Yeah, I think some of us know where some of them are.
Yeah.
I think water's always a beautiful draw, and of course it's going on its way, so we would maybe be intersecting it, but we're not using treated water. So just some thoughts, but for vegetation, I think it's really a must, and I would definitely volunteer to lead it. But if we could create it so it was basically self-sustaining, and then producing some oxygen and whatnot, even a few catalpas would also be some of the symbols, of Columbia with the miners volunteers.
Now, again, the landscaping phase is going to have to be something, a proposal that comes from a community group such as this one.
Yeah.
And then the county will work on your behalf to facilitate that with Caltrans. That's what we did down in Jamestown, and it worked quite well for quite a few years until somebody came in and broke the rules. One Saturday. So there are some guidelines, but the group down there, the promotion club, thank you, successfully managed that triangle for quite a few years.
Just one other thing, understanding that,
Yeah.
okay, thinking it through, let's say we do have some solar, we would want to be able to design the monument in a way so that we could tuck solar maybe in, so it's not obtrusive if we wanted to run some lights, let's say. So I think it's really good to think it all through, knowing that this part is just going to be the monument.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last one to add. So on this one specifically, and this might be in the weeds, but I would really recommend a serif kind of old-timey font, not the sans serif kind of Arial font there. I really do like the design that was come by the Gateway Committee. I wanted to recommend that we ask to have some type of exactly that low but light font facing upwards would be great. Whatever the cheapest option that might be, whether that's connecting to PG&E or whether that is a little independent system since it's a pretty low wattage. One other thing that was mentioned, I think just having Columbia, we want this to be about, this is a living gold rush town, right? Having that there and something iconic, whether it's something with the Miwok, exactly. So this is the one I would highly recommend. Could be that, could be whatever's cut out on top, but I like that this is a much larger, bolder sign, and it says this is a town, not just kind of a historic marker.
And then pass this.
Yeah. One last thought, if they happen to have money in the budget, people are obviously traveling this both ways, and we're only able to hit kind of one corner there. If there is a way to have a mirror image of the same exact sign on the other side, so you can see it from either way, I think that'd be advantageous.
And I think the thought was to kind of put it kitty corner to the intersection so it could be seen, so you're kind of looking at it oblique to the 45 to the intersection.
Yeah, so if you're coming from Storm, you wouldn't be able to see it.
No, not unless you're turning, yeah. Yeah. We can talk to Caltrans about that. Again, they haven't shared their budget for the sign with me, so that is going to be, I kind of know their overall budget, but I'm not sure how the overpass art fits into that too. Do we want to pass that one through the audience?
Oh, sure.
This is,
Thanks, Chris.
And
That's the one the chamber added on to the Columbia Gateway project idea.
what's planned for the immediate ground kind of landscaping around it? I mean, just within a couple feet of the rocks. Is it going to be gravel or, as Barbara mentioned, kind of native low grasses, just to avoid weed issues?
I don't know.
Okay.
Is there something that you guys would prefer?
Grounds would be nice.
I've got one in the back and then.
My question is,
Please introduce yourselves.
Suzanne Fraser, community member. The picture that shows the boulders with the rectangular sign that comes across, it says Columbia. What is the material of that sign? Is it metal? Is it wood? I would prefer to see it be some kind of metal that would naturally rust. I think that would be most attractive and a lot less maintenance than keeping a wood sign in good shape.
And we hadn't decided that yet, so it's good to have this input. So that's part of why we're here.
Hi, everyone. Lena, president of Columbia College. Obviously, for some selfish reason, I'm thinking, how can we promote Columbia College? And so I was wondering if the city has thought about an electronic board, so that way you can, or that's not allowed. But I think it would be a great, just so local business, because when I drive through Oakdale, you'll say, welcome to Oakdale, but then there's also an electronic, so that folks can advertise.
I'll let Sharon correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe our Tuolumne County sign ordinance doesn't allow the electronics. Sharon?
Yes, Sharon Meredith. I'd like to kind of broaden the discussion a little bit in terms of signage. I see the area as the gateway to the park, the college, and the airport. And my thought is that all three of those should be on a well-designed sign or whatever you want to call it. Relative to the city of Sonora, since you don't turn off there to get to the city, and my thought would be that one of Caltrans could add Sonora to one of their green signs that would say, you know, it says Sonora 2 miles or whatever it is. There may be signs along there that it can be added to, or it may already be on there. I don't know. The other thing that I kind of got lost in the translation for me was, who's paying for this project? In total, the whole thing.
Caltrans, through the grant, is paying for, 100% paying for this project.
So there's no county money that has to go into this.
Correct, just my time.
What's the budget?
The total budget is roughly $750,000 for construction. I haven't seen a breakdown beyond that of, preliminary engineering, construction engineering. I know that they have CEQA exemptions, so there's no extra money going into environmental.
Yeah, they've already done that. So you're saying that you've got a $750,000 budget for the intersection?
For the 4 overpasses that the Vision Sonora Committee is looking at, this sign and some fencing at the old, by the old Burger King at Mona Way and Greenlee, and I think they may have had one other location of fencing.
So we don't get all of it.
No, no. And I don't know what the breakdown is.
Who's paying for the landscaping?
The landscaping is something that a community group would have to come forward.
Blossom, that is not good enough. If they have, I was kind of distressed to hear you say that they're going to spend some money out at Burger King. I mean, this intersection, several people have used the word iconic. It's true. The Pedro line dates back to the early days. And I look at the project that Caltrans left behind out there, and I see dirt having been moved, I see asphalt, and then they walked away. They beautify things in other communities. It should not be left for the locals to hold the bag on making something that's attractive. The one thing I would like to ask you is EEN money available for landscaping? That is a mitigation money over and above what mitigation they have done now, which as far as I'm concerned is invisible. So, do you know if the EE money can use for that?
I can look into it. I know there hasn't been a lot of funds available in that fund for quite a while. But I can look into it, absolutely. And what I can do too is I can talk to Sam about maybe seeing if we can include some very basic landscaping with this project. Like you said, maybe the low-growing grass apron or the rock apron. At least a start until we can get another landscaping.
That's not good enough, boss. I mean, that is the gateway to Columbia. And for them to walk off and leave a dirt scape out there, it's contrary to really what they do in other communities. And so I think we should say that it's a Caltrans responsibility, totally, including the landscaping, because the intersection was their project.
It was a county project. The most recent one.
It was with Caltrans money, was it not?
It was.
Okay. And so, you know, there's a potential there to revegetate what was there historically. And I like what that was said about the landscaping, that some of the plants could relate to the kind of plants that the Native Americans used for thousands of years and may still be using. And that would be another way to acknowledge, you know, that history.
Okay. What I will do is I will talk to Sam Sherman, program manager for the Clean California Grant, and see if I can get anything out of him. And if not this round, then we'll keep trying. Because I know that the landscaping has been an important part of this project to this group and to the folks in Columbia for a long time. So let me see what I can do.
And to build on that really quick, we did have Clean California grants that the county had applied for and was successful in getting. This is an issue that's been brought up to Caltrans. They applied for their own grant to be able to get. And so in walking away, that is a concern too, is that if it becomes burdensome or too expensive, they could also walk away and shift that money towards one of those other projects. I kind of like where Blossom's at with it, where we're able to get a good sign and get that local input into it, and then work on the larger plan. It's been a very successful program. I think the state's looked at this positively, and they're going to have continuing rounds of this, I would expect, in the future, at least from one of the statewide committees I attended. So.
This gateway project has been in discussion for over 5 years. I was looking at my notes, and it goes back to 2017 and probably earlier. And things like that just kind of drag on if you don't get pushy. And Caltrans literally has millions of dollars throughout California to do beautification. I mean, if they can beautify Highway 99 at Turlock, we ought to qualify for something here, especially since it's on a state highway that's listed in the state resources code as a heritage corridor. I mean,
I don't disagree with you. Unfortunately, Caltrans applied for this grant without discussing it with even the county first. We didn't know anything about it until after it was awarded and already scoped. So we're doing the best we can to try to, if you had seen the first designs, every one of you would have cried, trust me.
It was a Central Valley Shopping Center slate sign that did not look great. And I really appreciate
we're doing what we can within the constraints. But let me see what I can do, Dan, because I don't disagree with you that this needs to be a package.
it's a project. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when they walked away from about 25% of the project.
Can I point out, one thing is, I think you came in after I announced, we're live streaming, I believe, and we need identification, so some people have no idea who you are.
Oh, happy to. Hi everybody, I'm Jared Brandon, I'm the District 5 County Supervisor.
Thank you. And my other point was, I sat in on those 2017 Gateway projects. I might have been the chairperson, I can't remember, but I dropped that ball, certainly. One thing I do recall is Dave Simney, I believe, who put in the Dollar General. Gary Simney? Okay. Had pretty much assured us he would put in landscaping on that side. and help kind of shield the strip mall, as I call it. Does the county have any leverage with that process?
So I know that they were waiting for the intersection realignment to finish to do kind of some of the final work on that shopping center. I know that from Public Works standpoint, they still have to put in a decomposed granite pedestrian path, and I would have to check to see if there's any outstanding landscaping work or not.
Okay, thank you.
I believe there was a bioswale, also retention basin.
There may be.
Anything else for Blossom? Thank you, that was excellent information and hopefully lots of good ideas to follow up on.
I just want to ask Zach, did you have anything else to add, or did you have enough input?
It sounded like the only real input regarding an actual sign was rusty metal, limestone, serif text. Mike didn't necessarily like the minor up top. You got another option, an idea of what you'd like to see besides that?
Well, no, my choice is the first choice.
Okay.
I would think the arch, the minor is plasterboard. The mining equipment is, what is it? What town is it? Calvert.
You see it everywhere.
Yeah, and the miner, that's plasterboard. So in the arch, they're all derivative. I think we need something, not subtle, but something that echoes the landscape.
Does the rocks echo the landscape?
I think so.
Okay.
No, that's very.
My name's Teresa Torbett. I know at one of the previous meetings, Sharon Grout was suggesting maybe even the silhouette of the Wells Fargo building. So we think of Columbia as a living history town. People are coming to see the town. They don't, yes, they do come to see the rocks, but they are looking at the town. One of my thoughts in sort of reflecting on that is that the town should include more than just minors. And I don't know whether the scale of the sign allows for that or not, but to give an impression that there are women here and men here, whatever. But I didn't want that to be lost, because I thought that was a really very appropriate comment and visual to make sure that people knew that there was actually a town there. And my goal is that we never lose the town in the park structure. So let me just show this, then we'll get to yours. This is the gateway to Amador City, I believe, with metal.
Well, the bottom one is the buildings are the buildings for Sonora.
Yeah, so this is kind of a hybrid from the Vision Sonora group. So is that kind of what you're talking about, is the silhouettes of the buildings? Well, I was thinking of in concept, potentially the Wells Fargo building is probably the most iconic or recognizable. Okay. But I guess if these are projects that are already in process, do we end up with just cookie cutter silhouettes of buildings? I don't know that that's. And this is kind of a conceptual look for something else, but it's something I just happen to have in my packet. Is that a sign that's destined for a city entryway?
That's for stock and 49.
For Sonora, yeah.
Coming in. That's a rather busy corner. People are moving along at a clip when they go through there, so we can't have too much that needs to be read because they're not really causing all that much. But if we want to include all the different things about Columbia, perhaps there's a way to have on the sign, above it, wherever, recreation, education, aviation. That would cover everybody's interest. It's a lot to write and read, I agree, but.
The more appropriate fix, I think, would be going back to Sharon Maravich's suggestion that Caltrans include some additional signage on their informational signs already. Instead of just Columbia State Park, it could say Columbia Living History, something. Many people come to Columbia looking for a park to play in and walk their dog. They have no idea that it's actually a town. But I think Caltrans has created some of that when they did the bypass. You don't actually go by the town, so you don't know. And because they're using the standard park signage for other state parks, the assumption is that it's a park with hiking trails. And so the fix might be to add additional information saying along the way, Columbia College, Columbia Airport. But I thought that was a good idea too.
I do like the other signs as well.
That's something we can talk to Caltrans about. Yeah.
Same exactly. As was mentioned, people are moving pretty quickly. Just the readability, of course, right? But whether it's the metal cutout, I know there was one, for example, near Railtown there on the concrete wall. There are parts of the day where the shadow, we can't read it, right? Yeah, and so just making sure, whether it's carved wood, which I think could look really great with great contrast, or whether that was a metal cutout with kind of a background in there. Just something to make sure it's not going to get weird shadows. The light's going to be able to make it readable at night, and it's readable because it was cut out letters and it's all rust color though. It might be hard to see over time, and I know you're good with that, but just being extra cognizant of it.
Yeah, cutouts could be hideous to read if the light's wrong and then it casts a shadow. You're trying to read it, like that. But I wanted to say sometimes, and Zach, and I know this is your craft, but insignias like that, picture of an airplane, these are picture icons that people can register without trying to read something. And a lot of times you have the overarching, the main sign, Columbia Living, Historic Park, insignia, and then, in a chain down, there could be an airport sign, and, and they're kind of cascading down from the arch that may be a little more for the eye to focus on, and if there's the insignia there, the bear certainly is iconic, and the airplane. And I don't know what we have for the park, Lena. I mean for the college, but maybe their insignia.
A book.
Yeah.
Might, that's just a thought in terms of design.
Well, does anyone want to see something other than it just saying Columbia? I mean, on this one single sign?
Yeah, some people have expressed an interest in more, but
well, yeah, can we get a list of those? Which one do you want to say airport?
So what I'm hearing is we have one with kind of the recreation, education, aviation concept, whatever that looks like.
However that's depicted.
And then the base design, perhaps with the addition of that, what was the language, living history town, or somebody has it out in the audience. So is that something where maybe you'd like to see two designs and then make a choice between those two at your next meeting?
Well, I think when you're talking about all these signs and things, it reminds me of going into older towns where it says, "Welcome to Columbia," and then it has the Rotary sign and the churches, and there'll be like 10 insignias like that all in a row, and I think it's getting too gummed up.
Yeah.
I completely agree with Chris, Tim Baker. Just keep it to Columbia. Pick a font that says something that in the design of the font, because you're not going to get all this stuff in there. People are there for 10 seconds, and it's going to be way too busy. And while you're looking at signs, people might want to take a look at the sign ordinance for Tuolumne County, and just take a look, because you drive down Parrots Ferry Road, there's so many violations of a carefully preserved entryway that is completely lost now. So keep it simple, but look at the big picture would be my wish.
And just to follow up on that, Tuolumne County Code Compliance is complaint driven. We don't have the time and the staffing to go out and look for violations ourselves, but we do investigate every complaint that comes in. I think, did you have a comment? And then we'll go back to you, Mike.
Yeah, I think we're missing a point that I understood Sharon to say is the state puts those green signs that say airport, school, college, separate from this. I think those are could easily be two different things. And I can't think of any sign that tells people where Sonora is when you come to the Pedro Y. Maybe it's there, I just stopped paying attention. And last point is, there are also state brown signs that are historic, and you begin to learn, if you see enough of them, that color means it's something historic. So that also could help with the concept of the gold rush town or whatever.
And there is one coming from Sonora for Columbia. There's a.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
There's one for Springfield, one for,
I think Mike was next and then Sharon.
Can I recommend that the council form a committee to hash out our differences and come back to Blossom with a consensus?
Well, I would also counter that Columbia Gateway project is still in existence, it just hasn't met, but I have a thinking feeling that was me, that might have been the chairperson.
Well, the Columbia Gateway project was never extinct, and we were just waiting for Pedro Y to be finished. But I think that there are other voices, other than the original 15 or 20 people in the Columbia Gateway project, who should be heard. And so that the CAAC would form a committee consisting of the original, of which there are...
Okay, we'll run with that.
Okay.
Since I have both hats, I think, in my possession.
We would just need the inputs fairly quickly.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah, like I said, this has to, I mean, really, we're hoping to have an answer back to Caltrans in 4 to 6 weeks. Sharon?
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Mike said. Unless I'm mistaken, the ideas that would be circulating here tonight are going to be given to a professional graphics artist. And as Blossom said, we will get to choose one of 2 designs that are presented to us. You don't want to turn a graphics artist loose. As creative and great as they are, they need input from a very, and I know who it is, it's good, but I would like to see Mike's suggestion, go forward. I also can show you other depictions that Caltrans is talking about for the overpasses on Highway 108 near Sonora. The committee liked cattle because that's part of the history. There's going to be some Native American designs, and there's going to be, Zach came up with this, it's the Sierra Railroad, and then it has the Back to the Future car in front of it. So there's a million different things that could go out there, but they need to be talked about in committee and broadened for transparency and inclusion.
So absent your group reforming your committee, I'm sorry, I'll get to you in just a sec. We would be looking for input tonight to put together those, say, 2 designs, and then come back to you folks and see if either one is kind of what your vision was. What?
Craig Conklin, you said the budget for 5 projects is $750,000, is that correct? Are you going to see a line item pretty soon? Because I'm thinking that's $150,000 per project minus the fence, probably $20,000, so $125,000 per project. I suspect the overpass is going to be pretty expensive, so it'd probably be useful to have. You might just get 2 rocks on a sign after the overpasses are done. I know there's engineering, and that's going to be high end.
Yeah.
So before you get too far down the road with ideas that aren't going to be part of this grant, will they be able to hear a line item budget?
I've requested it, I can ask again, since we're just kind of the mediary here, it hasn't been shared with me, but I'll see if I can get that.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
After having urged the council to form a committee, which would speed up this thing, I'm going to add that at Barbara Stutzman's request, a guy named Bill Selden, who was retired from the Public Works in the Sonora Public Works, who 20 years ago got Blue Mountain Minerals to donate limestone boulders to the Sonora Gateway project. Well, Bill has retired, and they want him out of the Sonora yard, and Blue Mountain doesn't want him back. So the boulders are there and available, and they look from the photographs to be of appropriate size for Chris Jepson's original design. So the cost for this may be minimal, just as a side note, so.
If I may, the chair, I would be okay with reforming that group, being able to have meetings on that. The only thing is we have to just have a very finite end time this is going to come in and not push the Caltrans deadline. So if that's meeting week to week, be able to fit in 3 or 4 discussions there, I think that would be appropriate, but just to make sure that consensus is arrived at the end.
Okay, so I will just say this, when we're done with this meeting, whoever wants to stay, let's stay and at least establish who wants to do it and when, and we might even get something done after this meeting. Anything else?
What I will do then is I will reach out to Caltrans tomorrow and find out what their drop dead date is for needing a design. We can back out the time that Zach needs to work on some concepts and hopefully get a timeline, and if they're willing to share their budget, a budget as well, to share with your subcommittee.
Great.
Is that agreeable to everybody?
Okay.
I appreciate everybody's input.
Thank you for coming, Blossom, and for all the information and visual.
Well, Blossom, are you going to stay for the next item? It might concern you guys. It's a
I
stop.
think it does, yes.
Okay, just
Do you want me to sit down and stand back up, or just stay here?
Just go ahead and stay there.
You got it.
On to item 2, the stop sign of great size in front of the mercantile. If anyone is not familiar, Teresa is the owner, co-owner of the mercantile at the other end of Main Street. And do you want to explain your
Oh, sure, thank
concern?
you. I took possession of the Columbia Mercantile 1855 grocery store in 2018. Prior to taking possession of that concession contract, I was really dismayed at the look of the building with a very rusted, dilapidated, pushed over sign that really added to a ghetto effect on that corner.
Stop sign.
Stop
A
sign.
legal stop sign, street sign.
Stop sign. I had made a request of Dick York at that time to find out if it could be straightened, maybe put into a wood frame, something that would be a little bit more appropriate on a street that is not utilized by vehicle traffic, except for a few months out of the year at night that very few people even know they can drive on. It's in the roadway. It is something that people are not expecting as they're walking down the street in groups. They will tend to run into it. There was some discussion of that from 2016 to 2018. At some point, I've lost track. Earlier this year, I arrived to find a brand new, very shiny, modern sign in that location, still somewhat bent. I was really upset about it because now it was really eye-catching. People had not noticed the sign before as much as I noticed it. We're very aware that all of a sudden now in Columbia, contrary to every other corner in Columbia, there was now this big sign, and it stands directly in front of my building, which does have an impact on whether people want to paint the building or etc. I made comments that it was a problem with where it was. Any man, tall woman was at risk of getting their head slammed into a corner of it. And the next thing I knew, it was raised another 4 feet, so it is now the tallest, shiniest, most obnoxious stop sign in, I think, the world. I've never seen a sign like that before. My hope was to come up with a better plan that made it look more appropriate to Columbia as I'm trying to beautify the exterior of that building to fit better with the time frame of 1850 to 1870. I haven't had the money to do that yet. It's still sort of stuck in the 70s. The sign doesn't help. And there were suggestions of putting it into a wood frame. There are other examples of wood frames around the county. As I've gone out, I've also thought it would be really nice if the county would entertain the idea of planting a tree there in line with the other trees that run along downtown Main Street. Both of those areas of Columbia are disjointed now. There's a definite break between the Old Town Columbia, which many visitors associate with Columbia, and the other piece of Columbia, which is just north of the fire station. The bathrooms and the meeting room have sort of created a separation there. A tree in front of our grocery store would help mitigate heat in the building in the summer, would allow me to lower my electricity costs, beautifies that corner, gives people a place to stand in a shady spot, much as they do at the St. Charles Saloon. And with time, a stop sign could maybe even be hung on that tree. It's no different than any other tree that's along Main Street that does entertain car traffic throughout the year. And so that's sort of where we are. I'm looking for solutions in partnership with the county to make something work that is both beautiful, cools that corner, is attractive to bring people up. My grocery store is a full-service, modern grocery store designed to keep Columbia a real town with a real city service. It's the last real city service for everybody beyond tourists. So I'm looking forward to hearing if there are ideas that the county might have, or if there's other input that I could provide.
So first of all, I love your store.
Thank
And
you.
those onion starts were amazing.
Yay! But it gets really hot in there in the summer.
Yeah,
It's a big
yeah.
problem.
So let me give a little bit of background. We are mandated by the state to put regulatory and warning signs on our roadways in accordance with Streets and Highways Code and the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So there are a lot of things that we do not have discretionary decisions over. And even though the road is closed a fair portion of the year, that is still a regulated intersection. We just were fortunate enough to get a big grant to replace all of our regulatory and warning signs on local roads, which was it was huge. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. That sign, I don't believe, was part of the grant, but we went ahead and did that one as well. We knew that there had been issues with the height, so we put it at a height that you would put it along a pedestrian corridor. The heights that we mount the signs also is mandated. And then the pole type, the metal pole, is a safety feature. If you look at it closely, it's a two-piece, and at the bottom it breaks away upon impact.
I do want to mention, sorry, there have been 2 people who have actually run into that, either on a bike or walking. So the pole itself is also a problem, and that is after it was put in and newly installed. I don't know that they've made any kind of claim to the county, but there have been people who have injured themselves.
Okay. And I had not heard that, so I don't think any claims have come through. All that being said, I can look at the tree plan and the tree league and kind of do some site distance work. We can't put a tree where the stop sign is. That becomes a crash hazard because the CHP and the law don't recognize that this is historic Columbia. They recognize that this is a street that receives state and federal funding from gas tax, and therefore it has to follow, the standards for regulatory and warning signs. That said, I can look into the trees. We cannot encase the sign itself in wood. We've looked into that. It becomes a non-standard sign at that point. And because it's a regulatory sign, again, that's an even bigger lawsuit waiting to happen. Somebody says, oh, I didn't see the stop sign because you've altered it. So we're not allowed to alter the signs. We could look into putting a wooden post in instead of the metal post. It's something that we don't generally do in the county. Our standard is that metal post. A wooden post requires digging down into the street. If it's hit, it requires digging a new hole in the street. But it's something I can look into. So those are kind of the options I can offer within the regulatory framework that we have to comply with. And I think, was there something else, tree, sign?
The size of it, is that?
That is regulated by code. So the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, is a federal highways publication that mandates the size, shape, placement, use of all traffic control devices, curbs and handicap ramps and signs and freeway off-ramp signs, and then California kind of further, edits that a little bit to make it
suitable for them, and that is what we're mandated to follow. So the size is dictated. They actually make them bigger, but I don't think anybody here wants that.
I would love the opportunity to work with you and see if there's something that would be more appropriate.
Yeah, yeah.
The circumstances are unique.
Yeah, again, the sign has to be there, but we can look at maybe some other options around it. That's absolutely something we'd like to do.
Perfect.
Columbia's on the National Register of Historic Places as a district. And the federal and state regulations, I honestly believe, are sensitive to the context of where signs are, stoplights, and that kind of thing. And so with federal money, if any federal money is involved, the federal government says that it doesn't, it would prefer not to impact negatively cultural resources. So there may be some wiggle room. You might find out what they do in other state parks in California. Also, I think the state ought to be an ally of this group in the Gateway project. I mean, you know, the state parks have a real vested interest in what that gateway looks like and what it says. The other thing is, you might check with Caltrans, because Columbia is on the National Register, it qualifies to have a sign out on the highway, one of those beige signs that have brown writing on them. Now, I don't think one's out there, I could be wrong, but it should be in each direction. There should be two out there.
Because it's a state park, I'm sorry, or a national register?
The
beige sign.
It's, I don't know the boundaries, but it's more than the historic downtown. It's on the National Register of Historic Places as a district, and it may even be a National Historic Landmark. It has the highest rating. I mean, really, it does. It's so special.
Okay. So I will look into that, Sharon, both getting the beige sign out on the highway if it isn't already, but also if there are, yes, of course. Also, well, 3 if you're coming from Parrots Ferry too.
Pardon?
You said 2 signs?
Yeah, one going each, one northbound and one
Yeah.
southbound.
And if we can also put one on Parrots Ferry coming this direction. We can do 3.
Oh, that's good.
And then I'll look into whether there's any sensitivity about the signage because it's a state park. It may have to do with the road being open sometimes and not others, but I'll look into that.
I believe they're there. I believe they're there near the monument on the.
Okay, I'll check.
Yeah. I know there's at least one.
I know there's one from Sonora coming this way, but it's hard to see. It might maybe take a little paint.
And there actually, aren't there 2 monuments from the Golden West for Columbia?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's state historic landmarks.
At least one.
Yeah.
Actually, on both ends. Anything else?
Yeah, what Sharon said, that if you call the SHPO's office, the State Historic Preservation Officer's office, because they may work with Caltrans on these kinds of things, and they may already have a set of variances. And the wooden sign that's in the photograph for the packet was taken at Springfield, where Springfield goes into 49, and that's wood. And I think it would be great to actually replace all of them here with wooden posts so that it's consistent and not hodgepodgey.
So that sign is in the Caltrans right-of-way, and Caltrans uses wooden posts?
I don't know if it's in the right-of-way, it's on Springfield Road.
No, it is. I'm telling you that's a Caltrans sign, which is why it has a wooden post.
Okay.
Because I saw the photo in the packet. Generally, we use the metal posts. It's what we stock. It's what we use. It's what we spec when we do new projects. But I can look into the feasibility of doing a wooden post. If not, at least at that one location. I don't know if we can do the whole town. It's something we can discuss internally, though, definitely.
There actually may be guidelines for counties that have roads within, on the National Register of Historic Places marks that we don't maybe are aware of.
No, I'll look into it.
That's cool.
Okay, thank you. Any last comments on the sign? Moving on to park projects, Joel, you'll also get a chance to speak.
Thank you very much, Lawson.
Yeah, thanks again.
good?
Her ankle was injured, and that's just giving her trouble in here. She's been, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joel Memmer. I'm the superintendent of Columbia State Park. I'm pleased to see all you in the audience. I think there's some new faces out there tonight. We appreciate seeing you. So I'm just going to give you guys a few updates of what we've been doing since our last meeting. We just finished our Stories in Stone interpretive event, and that was hugely successful once again. Our Volunteer Appreciation Day is the day that we appreciate all the volunteers in the park. That happens once a year. That's coming up on October 12th, this Wednesday. Blue Boulevard, one of our newer events, October 29th, that's been hugely successful. It's been growing every year by a huge amount. So we got a huge turnout during COVID. So we'll see what happens this year, but we're expecting a lot of people to come out for that. With that recent rainstorm, we incurred some damage at the city hotel and some other buildings. We've been doing repairs in the park to restore the building's integrity. We plan to have the city hotel open by November 1st, and there's a lot of deep cleaning, repainting, ceiling work, and the roof work. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. We're just about done with that. We did a lot of repairs to Brown's Coffee. That got a lot of water damage, so we went in there and spent a lot of time and money in there to fix that up. So you guys are, when that reopens, I encourage you to go in there and take a look and see what we did. It looks really good. Just a lot of work to our public housing around the park. We have a lot of public housing in the immediate vicinity. So we're doing a lot of little projects to maintain those structures for our tenants. And if you've been around the park during the day, you'll see our staff are out there raking leaves, cleaning gutters, prepping for fall, winter, for the storm to come in, making sure we're ready to go for that. So staff's out there working hard. We're gonna have some school programs throughout the fall, running through the fall this year. So we're trying to stay busy. Programming. We have a new ranger, Kyle McCarran. It's been a while since we've had one in the parks. He's excited to be here. He's doing really great. So if you see him out there, it's Kyle. So say hi to him. Our new ranger station that we've been talking about, we're just about there. November 1st is the tentative start date to get that open. At least at basic level, and I think by next year we're going to be full operation. So it's going to be open 7 days a week. We'll have someone in the front office to greet the public, to report any concerns or anything that anyone has in that community. They go in there and talk to the rangers actually in the office. So that'll be good for the park. And then just a little other projects like the rock wall repair in front of the Wells Fargo. We're decommissioning the water fountain by the gazebo. So that's been out of commission for years now. It just doesn't work. What we're going to do is we're going to go in and take it out, put in a irrigation system that'll not only save water, but it'll better irrigate the plants out there. And then there's the drinking fountain right across the street by the restroom. So we still have an ADA drinking fountain right there. That's basically all I have. Do you guys have any questions?
No question, but a comment. Kyle was great, and I did want to let everyone know that he's also fire trained and EMT, so it's really nice to have somebody.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
So Ranger Station, I hadn't heard of that. Where will that be located, and can you elaborate a little bit?
Sure. It's in the old post office that was there for about 50 years, and it became the artificers. So they recently retired and they did the building. So we wanted to make it useful very quickly, so we maintain the integrity of the park. And we thought a ranger station would be like a community kind of oriented office where we can interact with the public better.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, thank you. And we want to increase visitation to that side of the park. As Reese said, it's kind of there's just a little bit of disconjunction right there, which first indicated where the restroom and the gazebo is. So we're trying to push people to that side of the park, and this is another way that we're going to see what happens, but we're optimistic about that.
Yeah, thank you for this. And I have a question about the stagecoach concessionaire. Where are we with that?
We are currently, we did the proposal in this room about a month ago or so, and we have some interest. So we have people that are, that have proposed, that submit proposals. The deadline to submit proposals is October 20th, so we might get another person in there, crossing our fingers. Ultimately, we want to see that operation in full effect by early next year, about January. So whether or not it's the current concessionaire or a new concessionaire, we expect to have someone up and running by January.
I have one other question for you. Okay. I agree that the park seems, with the tree turnover, you know, because of the arborist and the trees get old, et cetera, and we replanted on part of the tree leaf. But I would really, and I can grow the cactus, you know, from the mother seed if there's a demand for it. But I do think that I've started to notice more little dogs have their little feet gloves on because it is so hot at that end of the park. And so I would really encourage, maybe not in front of the mercantile, but the park too, especially where those bathrooms are, that drinking fountain is ADA accessible, and that beautiful olive tree. I would like to work, maybe discuss more with you, opportunities to put some more shade and some more resting spots for families in that upper, towards the mercantile part.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. There is a lack of shade in that. So that would be great. Love to do that. Yes, sir.
I want to go back to the stagecoach concession. I saw the RFP and it called for horse-drawn conveyances. Does that necessarily mean the successful bidder will not have to provide a stagecoach?
No, the stagecoach is mandatory, so there will be a stagecoach. The horse-drawn conveyance title is just so we can encompass more like a larger variety. So, 20 rides at one time, horse equestrian activities. We wanted to just increase the scope of interest and see what ideas people had. But the fundamental stagecoach operation will remain.
Sorry, one last thing. Is it possible to have the lights turned on in two ranger station offices and possibly Burns Cottage? It's very dark down there. None of those non-businesses are lighted.
Okay, the exterior lighting we're talking about. Okay, I will look into that. It is pretty dark down there.
Kim, did you have any questions?
Oh, he answered.
Actually, but I don't know if this would fall under me, but I found a whole group of people from, I believe they're from Florida, wandering around at the school, because they took the trail from the airport over to the street. Sorry, I'm Molly. Okay, hi. And there's no sign there that says Columbia Short Park this way, or there's nothing at the end of that trail when you hit Paris Ferry. So if
the airport trail.
Yeah. I don't know if there used to be something there, but I just found them wandering and asked them, and they said, "Oh, is the park this way, or did we go that way?" They were just.
I can see that. I'll go down and take a look and see what options you might have. I appreciate the input. This helps us.
Kim Baker, just about that trail, I did recently come across a newspaper article from the time it was put in, and the park worked with the county and there was apparently signage that then led people over to the crosswalk onto Church Street, and then across the dirt path to the parking lot where there's another crosswalk. I'm not sure how they got by the post office, because there's no sidewalk really. But anyway, that has in the past apparently been something that's been lost over time.
Okay, we'll look into that. See what they're for.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Joel. Next item is update on city hotel discussion. Would you like to elucidate, or is this a Mike King thing?
It's a Mike King kind of thing.
It's a Mike King kind of thing, because nobody else on our board is here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it quick, I can't make it after we have our stuff. The contract has not been signed by the state. So everything we spend, every minute we spend in labor, every dollar we spend cost is betting on the company. I don't know of a situation where a state gave concessionaire keys and then us. We are assessing all the system, and we probably bought probably a third to a half of the equipment. So we're getting close. We haven't hired a chef. We only hired one employee, and that employee is swamping out. The people who are already on our list who are one prospective shareholders will be notified very shortly that we're where we are, and at some point in the near future, we'll start accepting checks. We haven't taken anybody's money yet because I want to make sure. And we've got it'll be fine dining, nice saloon. The labor's been crushing. Trying to find labor. So, and the state is doing, at least the locals have. Our concept is novel, and it's a long time. That's right. But they finally have, and we'll hope to open, if not, if anybody has any questions, contact. And if you want to be a member, contact us. So a quick note on the form. This is a co-op. So there are employee co-ops. No restaurants. There are no pizza co-ops. The closest patron co-op is the food delivery.
Okay, Mike, I'm gonna have to ask you. Did everyone get the mailer? If you have local mail.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll call.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next item, Cinco de Mayo discussion. I thought you have.
Okay, so we are planning Cinco de Mayo again. It was a humble presentation last year, but it was well received, and I again want to thank Joel and the whole park staff for accommodating us. We're hoping, we haven't made an appointment with Joel to meet this coming week on the 13th, I think, and so we will go forward and see what that may look like. We would like to have an activity north and south, if you will, to help people walk. If let's say we have a barbecue at the Burns house, traditional California type Cinco de Mayo barbecue, we have things at the other end of the park, then folks can stroll the whole thing. And so anyway, we will talk, and hopefully we'll plan a nice event. Yes.
I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I spoke to someone who's on the board of Latino Outdoors, and they highly recommend connecting with the Fresno representative for Latino Outdoors, because they do a lot of work with state parks. And while their focus is outdoor related, this might, because of the park connection, he thought they would be interested in making a connection.
Okay, good to know. This Saturday at Columbia College, I'm sorry that Dr. Lena is not here, but they are putting on a celebration, a fiesta to celebrate our Latino heritage here, and just to celebrate Latino heritage in general. And so that's going to be at Park Saturday afternoon, I believe.
11 to 2, I believe.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and they'll have folklorico presenters from the valley. And, you know, we're hoping with this year's 2023 Cinco de Mayo, that we can attract Latino artists, local artists, and singers, musicians, things like that. So that's a good thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And number 6, a request from CAAC to amend the Columbia Community Plan. I believe Jared has it.
Great, thank you. So the community plans within the general plan, if anybody's not familiar, it's effectively a smaller planning jurisdiction that can have special rules about local placemaking, planning, what's allowed. It kind of makes a little microcosm, but it has of course the general plan. It used to be enforced by our local planning commissions. We no longer have that, so that's left an issue for both Jamestown and Columbia. This is something that is very precious to District 5. However, trying to find the majority support, I think, to review this and spend some resources as it takes, has been an ongoing goal for me. I think there's been some movement on the board to look at the areas that kind of don't have community plans and like to establish this, maybe look at the ones that do exist. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to be able to amend ours. This is to help preserve, I think, along Paris Ferry, along Eagle Hill, along many of the roads, historic look design standards that are adding to this community. Be able to balance that with, I think, any type of growth or housing needs within it to make sure that it's done in a way that preserves and protects the area. And also to, I think, mention the complaint-driven code enforcement process. They can only enforce a code if it's actually required and not encouraged. So if it states something is encouraged, that's not going to be something that can actually be held against someone. So with that, it has to come from the community. This is not generally be a county-initiated effort. I'd like to request that the Columbia Area Advisory Commission formally endorse, whether it's this meeting or the next, the idea of looking into the community plan to submit revisions to that. And then shortly after, forming a group to begin discussing. And I believe it's Title 15 of the county. So anybody wants to check that out, please email me. Certainly this, I think, goes all the way to the page of why. I'm creating the other boundaries of it too, but it's much larger than just the park area. So this has impacts on housing and development. This impacts on road projects or what it looks like. It very potentially could have trees and those types of things in there as well. So there's a lot of little discussions to have. We can't do it.
Jaron, I believe we will agendize that for the next meeting. If you missed it, this meeting is informational only because we were unable to post in a timely manner. But we will go ahead and put that on the next agenda. Is that it for that item?
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, please.
Okay, so at Carl Rotifer's request, some of us formed an ad hoc committee when the general plan was going through its update in 2017, and so a lot of that preliminary discovery work, just an incredible amount of work has gone into a draft that we could consider.
Great.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Item 6. Moving on to the final item before member reports, proposal to form a committee for the fire response advocacy. This should only take a minute.
Yes. Kim Baker, I organized the fire forum over at the elementary school back in August. Not because I ever aspired to be a community organizer, but because I felt that there seemed to be some critical mass of people interested in trying to change things, trying to understand how fire systems work here. And so what I would like to do, or what I am doing, is starting a committee of citizens who are interested in agreeing to meet on a somewhat regular basis, read some of the reports that have been done. And this would be non-adversarial committee. So it's not about creating any conflict or calling people out, but we all know or should know in democracy, we need to depend on the citizens to have some involvement in the decision-making processes that are happening in our community, and not just leave it to our elected officials and public servants. So So I have had interest from a handful of people who are beyond this committee. I'd like to try it out for a year, where we do some research off-site and then occasionally get together, meet with elected officials. I think a perfect example is CAL FIRE, the chief for this section here, the CAL FIRE section. We're starting to build a relationship with him. He retired. Now there was an interim guy who came to the meeting over there. Now there's another guy. So it's important to have a committee, regularly touch base with folks, say, hey, we're here, we're interested, we're watching, we're concerned, we know how things work. And we would like to see this, we'd like to see looking at this, just so that it's more of a democratic process. So I'm proposing that this committee be affiliated with CAAC. Doesn't need to be, but I think it would be good to have this forum to come back and report on a regular basis what's going on, because I think a big part and a very important role for the committee will be to talk to our neighbors, communicate with our neighbors, share the things that we're learning that are happening. So I guess you can't make a decision today, but I would hope that you will. Maybe you can't, I don't know, something that has to be voted on, but so that's what I'm proposing. And if anyone is interested in being on this committee, please reach out to me. Again, it is not about protesting or calling people out. It's just about being more involved, taking a look at the history of firefighting in the last couple of decades, and being part of the process and moving forward.
But specific to Columbia
area, not the Columbia district. So I think that's really important. There's only 160 properties, I think, in the Columbia Fire Protection District. And this really needs to involve everybody who is touched by the lack of fire service in Columbia from all the different. So.
Any questions or comments?
I think it's a good idea. My knowledge as an ad hoc committee could form that, I think today.
We as a CAAC. Okay.
So I would recommend moving forward with that, and I think that would be a good discussion forum, certainly.
That seems fine. Does that mean we have to vote on it, or just say this now?
Chair and all.
Is it? Great, let's do that.
All right. Thanks, Kim.
All right. That concludes regular business. We now have member reports. Some have already reported and some are not here, so it should go fairly quickly. But Joel, with the park, anything else?
No, nothing out of the ordinary.
And Columbia Engine Company, I don't think is here. County.
Great. I have some good news. So we had the budget come up a little while ago. Columbia College Station in particular, we had $68,000 included in that budget to expand their fire service 24/7. That's something like a $5,000 or maybe $6,000 stipend per volunteer firefighter to live at the station. They have 5 trained engineers, which means they can actually send out not just the air support apparatus, but the full engine. So that is an improvement to this area in fire service coverage, which is a good. Doesn't solve the entire issue, but it is a very good stop with that. I also want to say that there is economic, it's called the Community Economic Resilience Fund. It's economic planning between 7 counties. I've been in touch with Danielle. I forget, I think we emailed, but if not, I've been trying to get in touch with everybody affiliated with state parks. This is something that I think we can be able to fill out this survey to the Central Sierra Economic Development District and then eventually to the 7-county region to say that the state parks are an economic engine. In particular, I mean, Columbia, any investments here pay out for generations. And we need to make sure that voices of the 7 counties, 200 responses have been received. So if we can solicit 10, 20 responses of people saying that invest in our parks, expand the resources available, expand the capacity for parking and other things to support business, that's going to be a huge benefit. I will be posting that, and please follow through. If there's any questions about that, please just reach out. And then I want to say another really exciting thing in the budget. I've been talking with our former recreation person, Nadine Hanson, and then the county about the idea of some type of community center at the Armory. As we know, there's a lot of deferred maintenance on the building, and that was a huge liability for us. trying to turn that frown upside down. Eventually, we had, with the completion of the Groveland and Tuolumne Resiliency Centers, a proposal to make that the third resiliency center in the county. We've been so successful with the other projects, we think that the state will support that. Those are $10 to $15 million buildings that can be multi-use. They can offer office space for local partners. They can be youth space, events space. They can be for local offices as well. And I believe they're going to build a little bit more on the property. I think that adds to our airport. So anyway, that's really exciting. Stakeholders are being pulled together. I believe there's a meeting on the 24th. But if anybody would like to attend that, I've already given them a short list of stakeholders. But this will be the public forum for it. Reach out. I'll make sure to get the right time from Liz and Eric in Recreation. So those is good news.
Great, well done. And moving on, Columbia Fire Protection District, no one here, Historical Society, Barbara Dalen.
Yeah, just want to report out that with the County Historical Society, if you guys aren't members, I would encourage you to go online and become a member. You get the chispa, of course, chispa means spark in Spanish, and it's really an incredible read. And this has Chuck Holland's family. You know, Chuck was a principal and whatnot for Seminole High for many years and longtime member of the community, as were his pioneer grandparents and so forth. So anyway, this was a really interesting read, and I'm passing this along. But the other thing I wanted to say is, if you haven't looked at some of the couple of things, the picture book of Othello Weston, I think I talked about that last time. I would encourage everybody to pick up a copy of that, because she documented through photographs Columbia before it was a state park, and she's very instrumental. And she's kind of her own person. And but through her documentation, it was very instrumental in getting one to document the historic look of these buildings, so when they are reconstructed, we understand, we can look at what they used to look like and do it in a representative fashion. Anyway, that's an amazing book, and you can buy it used at Amazon. They're not that very expensive. They're just like library discards. And again, it's Othello Weston, and she had her little studio, which is used to have a big pine tree in front of it. It's just slowly like decomposing over here across from where the Mahonies had their yard sale, the Habitat for Humanity. So that's a good one. And then there's another one I want to recommend, which is Perkins Journal. That's if you really want to know what the nightlife in these communities were, and all the representation, not just white people, but people from all over the world. Those are really good. Perkins Journal is a really good read, because we tend to just narrowly focus as we go through time, our history, and maybe discount, like you were saying, the whole corridor. You know. So anyway, that's all I want to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And Molly Day for Columbia Elementary School.
Good evening, Molly Day. I am the president of the school board at Columbia Elementary, and we are getting ready for Halloween. It's a big deal at the school, so we haven't had in a couple of years our Halloween carnival, and it will be back. We're going to have it on Sunday, though. There was a conflict, so it'll be on Sunday the 30th from noon until 4. We are going to be doing, this is for all of you and all of you out there. If anybody would like to take part in our trunk or treat, we're going to cordon off part of the parking lot, and you can set up your car, because I know you probably don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters at your house. So it's kind of a fun way to promote your business, or just get to see all the kids. So you can decorate it and hand out candy or whatever you like. So that will be going on the 30th. We also, on the 31st, we don't have an exact time, but the kids come down and parade through Main Street here, and it is really a cool thing to see. So if you're in town or want to do something fun that day, watch our Facebook. Our Facebook page is where we put most of our information, so it's a really good thing to follow. And everybody is welcome. You don't have to have a kid at the
Facebook, you put in what to find it?
Columbia Elementary. So yeah, you should show up. We'll see our 40-minute guy on there. We are going to also, we have fundraisers going on for our PTO. We're going to be selling pies starting today, so you can look fries, and they look very homemade, so you can fool everybody at Thanksgiving. We still have an interim superintendent in place. We have had the most incredible community of retired teachers in our area and really come to our rescue. So we're still trying to find that person that can stay in there for the long run, but we've got plenty of educational courage and keep us on beat until then. Seems to know everybody that goes to our school, parents, grandparents. So we also have multiple job openings that are going on, and there's a link to what those job openings are through our Facebook page. A lot of them are just for a few hours, so if somebody or yourself would like to spend some time with our future, we'd love to have you. So, and let's see. Just one of the big concerns I know that I'm having is just that, as always, our kids walking on the roads. So I think people to slow down, enjoy Columbia a little bit more, and watch out for the kids and try to find solutions to either getting the vegetation pulled back. There's more room. I do get concerned about parents walking to pick up their kids and the kids that are walking. And then we have a lot of people in our community that just got something to get around town. So I need this to take care of them.
Yeah, I just wanted to add the climate action plan being considered county. I voted for Lake safer school crosswalks as a greenhouse gas reducer. That's something that I'm hoping will be turned back, which gives a foothold to try and get some traffic calming measures there. Schools safer crossing.
So that is, I believe, all I have. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Molly. Last column, to be very quick. Chamber, Leanna's not here. I can tell you for the chamber that the skating ice rink, synthetic rink is being installed at the 49er or Marble Quarry. So if you do drive by there, you're going to see a large white presence now. And they're looking to open very soon. Again, the hiring is a bit problematic, but as far as I know, it's moving forward and it's certainly being installed now. Friends of Columbia would be me. I have not been to a meeting lately because I've been gone and nothing comes to mind with that.
Lamplight. Lamplight.
Oh, the lamplight is going to happen. And I don't know the dates, but it's on Facebook if you want to look up Friends of Columbia on Facebook. The college, Dr. Lena Tran could not stay. The cemetery, no one is here. I don't think we have anyone.
John's here.
John, I'm sorry.
It's all right, Richard.
Thanks for hanging around.
Yeah.
He's got a report.
Well, I figured everyone come up here, I better.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Yeah. Oh, my name is John Schultz. I'm the sexton of Columbia Cemetery District. As you can tell, things are pretty quiet up there. But we did, like also, we did host the Stories in Stone here last 2 weekends or prior 2 weekends. Then of course, Friday and Saturday nights. And I believe it's always a huge success. We sell out all the time.
So good.
Yeah.
I went there with 5 of my housemates and friends. Great. It was fun.
Good. And we continue to have a lot of foot traffic up in that cemetery that goes to the old school. Then they come over to the cemetery, and it's just constant. So we get a lot of people from outside the area that are looking at that. So we have a caretaker that does a good job up there, takes care of things. And our next event really would be Veterans Day. They have a Veterans Day celebration up there, November 11th. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, John. And finally, Columbia concessionaires, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm going to make it short. I just want to mention that this weekend's Fall Festival, Harvest Festival, was a big success. Town was packed. I'm sure all the concessionaires were really excited about all of the business that it generated, having everyone there. If you were able to participate, thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
thank you all for hanging in there this long. If anyone wants to set a time for the Columbia Gateway project, let's do that right now. And what was the other group we just formed? Fire group, yeah. Well, we can. So, Chris,
Yes,
how's your schedule? Are you interested in continuing?
I am interested, so it has to be an evening.